Hi guys, how are you all doing? How's it going? This is just a quickie. I'm just popping on in between clients. Did you see my Facebook Live on hormones and your cycle and how it affects dopamine, serotonin, GABA, glutamate, and how estrogen and progesterone through your cycle can affect these? It made me think, and I had this huge aha moment. I have so many clients come and see me, and through the month they find that at different times of the month they react to different foods. So sometimes they'll react to some food and then other times they'll feel fine, you know, and so they come and see me and they say, well, there's no pattern, it can't be that food, I feel fine. But after thinking about it and realizing that the effect that glutamate and estrogen have and how glutamate affects things in your body, and that actually estrogen potentiates glutamate. So this means at certain times in your cycle, for instance when you're ovulating. Hi Angie, how are you going? I'm just on for a quickie. I'm actually talking about I did a Facebook Live last week, Angie, and I was talking about how estrogen and progesterone affect neurotransmitters, and I just wanted to actually pop on and just talk about how glutamate, how this means that through your cycle you actually react to different foods. And I've got clients that are like this, and I'm like this myself. Sometimes I can eat certain foods and I feel fine, and then other times I eat them and I'll come up. And glutamate is one of these things. It's found naturally in foods like tomatoes, soy, fermented foods, bone broth, even glutamate is in, peas, and those mature cheeses like cheddar and cheeses like that. Now I've noticed this with cheese actually. Sometimes I can have some cheddar cheese and feel fine. Other times I feel a bit funny and I get that kind of like rash around my mouth and I get itchy lips, but it doesn't happen all the time. So here's the interesting thing. Estrogen actually potentiates glutamate, and glutamate is the neurotransmitter which can cause ADD, it can cause hyperactivity, it can cause migraines, it can cause headaches, it can cause more body pain, it can cause rashes, it can actually cause that feeling, that heightened sense of feeling wired but yet tired, you know, just feeling a little bit uncomfortable, not feeling fantastic in yourself, but kind of being wired but wanting to sleep at the same time, but not being able to sleep. It can actually lower glutathione as well. Glutathione is the antioxidant, very important, particularly in people with MTHFR. So if you've got MTHFR plus you've got high glutamate, high estrogen, that glutamate is actually going to lower your glutathione, which is going to cause issues with FODMAPs. You're going to have bowel issues, you're going to have more bloating. Plus, what glutamate does is it increases the bad bacteria in your gut. So here are some symptoms you might notice through your cycle when you're estrogen dominant. So we're mainly estrogen dominant from mid-cycle, that's 14 days into our cycle, when estrogen can rise. We're also estrogen dominant when we get stressed, but definitely through that second half of our cycle. So you might find you get migraines or headaches when you eat certain foods, which you wouldn't necessarily get other times in your cycle. You might find you're more windy, you've got more candida symptoms like thrush, you're more windy, bloated, pain, you might get reflux, you might get more burping as well, and this is because the high estrogen has caused a glutamate to cause some disturbance with the gut bacteria. Really interesting. You might get more dandruff or itchy scalp because of that bacteria and candida proliferation. You might find that you get insomnia at certain times. You might find that you're more sensitive to those foods. So you might have a Chinese meal with MSG in. On the first day of your period, you're fine eating that, but on mid-cycle, you might actually react to that, and you might get that anxiety, you might get the heart palpitations. I get some clients that get the facial flushing, and they don't get it all the time. So the estrogen dominance could be causing that glutamate to rise, and that causes the facial flushing with certain alcohols, because alcohols are fermented and they have the glutamate in. More sweating as well. And also weakness and muscle pain. So some people get the weakness and muscle pain with glutamate. So I just wanted to touch on this because I just wanted to make you aware of how it can be so hard to pinpoint food sensitivities. But it can be our hormones that influence how we react to food. So we don't necessarily have dairy every day and react to dairy every day. But if we're estrogen dominant, we could be reacting to dairy more. So it's really interesting to look at. So I encourage you to have a look at those foods that you think you might be sensitive to, but you've never really pinpointed it, and actually have a look at if certain times in your cycle you're reacting to it. Because I know there are certain things I react to in my cycle a little bit more. Sometimes I might get the itchy mouth when I eat certain foods. Sometimes I might get a little bit of a flush on the cheeks when I eat certain foods. Particularly sometimes I can be sensitive to alcohol. So I don't drink particularly much, but sometimes, you know, I do have some wine, and sometimes I'll be fine, and then other times can have like a couple of sips of wine and I get a little bit hot and a little bit red. And so I'm going to look at actually when that is in my cycle, because it's probably got a lot of influence on the estrogen dominance. So really what's sort of coming out of this is, just because you do react to some things and then you don't react to it, it doesn't mean that you're not reacting to that food. So that can make it just seem a little bit complicated. But just have a look at when you react to things in your cycle, and this could be a really good indication that that estrogen dominance is causing reactions in your body. So I definitely look at ways to reduce the estrogen in your body, and particularly have a look at when you know you're estrogen dominant, which is normally that mid-cycle. You know, maybe don't go too over the top on high glutamate foods, and also maybe reduce the MSG. What this is also making me think, and this is a different point, but it's for all of you mums out there that have kids that have sensitivities to glutamate, you know, ADD, autism, hyperactivity, those kind of things, really sensitive allergies, and you've had to say put them on the GAPS diet. Well, it's highlighting and it's making me think, is there a hormonal issue? Because we know kids could have high hormones. So it's just putting a little flag up, a little aha and spark in my brain, thinking, is there a hormonal issue going on there? Is somehow this child unfortunately estrogen dominant due to lifestyle, due to chemicals, due to estrogens in the environment? So this really does weigh in heavy on the fact that we need to be reducing those xenoestrogens in our environment for us and also our kids, you know, reducing the cleaning products that can potentiate estrogen, detox using zinc, try and get copper out of the environment. Don't take, you know, be careful with oral contraceptive pills because they can cause elevated estrogen. So just all of those things, because this can be connected to not only food sensitivities, rashes, but also anxiety, also ADD, also autism, and those kind of conditions. So just food for thought, guys. I wanted to come on really quick, so I hope I have kept it quick for you guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. Angie, it was so nice to see you. I haven't been seeing you much recently. I think you've been too busy, but have a lovely weekend, Angie, and I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.